Friday, September 8th. I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm just going to say it and get on with my life. I was standing at the goal at soccer practice, taking shots from some of the starting players, mostly 8th graders. They've all picked up on what the kid in the gray sweatshirt said about my goggles. They call me Mars. That's okay with me. I've been called worse. What's important is that I'm a player, and they all recognize that. I'm their starting goalie, right? So I was standing in the goal, wearing the red pullover goalie shirt, handling some pretty easy shots. Gino was over on the side, talking to Coach Walski. I saw them kind of looking at me, and then Gino came running over and said, "Hey, Mars, is your name Paul Fisher?" "Yeah." "Coach wants to see you." All right. I figured this was it. This was going to make it official. The coach was going to tell me how impressed he has been by my playing goal and so on. I hustled over to the sideline. "Coach Walski, you wanted to see me?" "Are you Paul Fisher?" "Yes, sir." He looked at his clipboard and flipped through some pages until he found a memo. Paul, you have an IEP. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." Coach Walski looked pained. "I'm sorry to tell you this, Paul, but you're not eligible for the program." "Sir?" "You can't play. You can't play soccer for Lake Windsor Middle School." "What are you talking about, can't play? I can play. I'm one of the best players there is." No, I mean you're not eligible to play. I have a memo from Mr. Murrow saying that you're in a special program for the visually handicapped. Is that right?" "So what? I can see fine." "That's not the point." "I don't understand what you're talking about." "We have to carry insurance on every boy and girl in the program or we can't play. Period. If we lose our insurance, we lose our program. I'm sorry, but there's no way we can justify putting a visually handicapped student in the goal of all places where he could get his head kicked in." He looked at me like I was crazy to think otherwise. Then he added, "Come on now." I screamed, "No, you come on now. You see if you can kick my head in. You see if you or anybody here can get one ball past me. One ball." Coach Walski pulled back. He changed his tone. "Paul, I'm sorry. I know you're upset. I know you're disappointed. But try to understand this. It'd be the same situation if you had a heart murmur or hernia or whatever. I have to play it straight with the insurance company. If any kid has any physical problem, I have to report it. And I know that this condition of yours will not be acceptable to the insurance company. Again, I'm sorry." He got even sorrier a few seconds later. I still can't believe what I did. I knelt down on that sideline, took off my sports goggles, and started to cry. I didn't say another word. I just put my head down and cried and sobbed. Coach Walski was at as much a loss as I was. Neither of us knew what to do next. He just stood there and watched me. I heard him call an assistant over and tell him to organize a scrimmage. Coach Walski stood a little off to the side and waited. I finally stopped. I wiped my face with my goalie shirt, put my goggles back on, and walked from the field to the parking lot. I stood in the bus shelter until 5, when Mom pulled up in the station wagon. Dad was right behind her in the Range Rover. Mom rolled down the passenger side window. "What are you doing here? Are you all right?" "I got kicked off the team." "What? What happened?" "Coach Walski said I'm in the program for the handicapped, so I'm off the team." That's outrageous. He can't do that." "Well, he just did it. He said they can't get insurance for me because I'm in a handicapped program. You know all about that, right, Mum?" "Me? What do you mean?" "You told them I'm handicapped. You told them I'm visually impaired." "Darling, you are. I just told them the truth." "That's not the truth. I can see. Don't you know that? Why did you fill out that stupid form when you know I can see? You saw me play in Houston. You saw me make 30 saves in one game. Did I look visually impaired then?" "Paul, darling, I didn't know that the IEP form had anything to do with playing on the soccer team. I would never have filled it out if I did. I know how important this is to you. Listen now, your father will straighten this out with Coach Walski." She turned off her engine, got out, and went back to speak to Dad. I didn't listen, but I guess she explained the situation because Dad got out and walked to the soccer field. I remained standing in the bus shelter, watching the black outline of an osprey slowly crossing the sky to its nest. It was clutching something that flashed brightly, reflecting the sun. I said to myself, "There goes another one of your koi, Mr. Costello." Mom was watching me, but she didn't say anything. Did she really believe that Dad was going to straighten this out? We both watched Dad talk to Coach Walski, and we both watched him walk back to the station wagon. He stood at the passenger window between Mom and me and said, "All right, here's the deal. They have a problem with the insurance. They can't put Paul in goal because of his vision. However, Coach Walski does want you to manage the team. He hasn't appointed a manager yet for this season, and he wants you to take the job. He said to tell you that you'd be on the bus. You'd be in charge of the team and the equipment for every game, home and away." I looked at Mum's face. At least she had a clue. At least she understood. I didn't argue. There was nothing left to say. I looked back at Dad and told him calmly, "I'm not a water boy, Dad. I'm not a team manager. I'm a player." Then I climbed into the back of the station wagon and we all started for home. After a few miles, Mum whispered, "Darling, do you want me to go speak to Mr. Murrow?" I said, "What for?" "To tell him that your vision has improved." "Why? Do you believe that?" We drove in silence for a while. Then she answered, "Yes, I do believe it. And I do remember all those games in Houston. You were the best goaltender in that league. I was terrified to let you play, but you turned out to be the best goaltender in that league." I looked up at the rearview mirror and saw tears in her eyes. "Paul, all I can do is apologize and promise that I'll never mention your eyesight to anyone ever again." I was too hurt and angry to tell her that I appreciated those words, that those words helped. But they did.